So now that hopefully you've played around with widgets, containers, and layouts, and you have a good understanding of how to use them in your programs, we're going to look at top-level containers and how we can use them to make more advanced-looking programs. Today. We're also going to look at the canvas class, which will let us paint stuff on screen. If you remember last year, whenever we did a JFrame, what we would do is we would override the paint method, which worked for our basic games last year, but if we want to use widgets along with our program, overriding the paint method kind of screws everything up. So using a canvas is going to be a much more elegant solution. So we're going to continue on. If you followed along last time on the widgets program, we're going to continue on from the widgets program. Before I get into the coding, I will take a step back and show you one thing. A lot of graphical user interface, a lot of integrated development environments, IDEs, for Java come with built-in GUI editors, and NetBeans is among those. So if you recall last year when we wanted to create a new project, we'd start a basic application, then we would just add a JFrame form to it. I'm just going to leave the default name. And then as soon as you open up your JFrame form after you've created it, you notice we can go to the source code or there's design here. So under design, what it lets us do is take a look at that. We have our swing containers, we have our swing controls, so all our widgets that we've been kind of taking a look at. And again, remember last time I talked about the difference between swing and AWT, Abstract Windows Toolkit. Generally, we're going to want to stick to swing because that's the newer, better one. So yeah, stay away from AWT. But either way, what we could do instead of hard coding this in ourselves is if we wanted a button, we could drag it from the palette, position it where we want. We could click on the properties. The properties of that button, let me make that a little bit bigger, and we could change some of the properties, which are basically, accessing the settings that we were playing around with last time. So if I wanted a checkbox, I could drag my checkbox, position it, a couple radio buttons, and I can even do a panel and start positioning some buttons inside that panel. Your most up-to-date IDEs will have a graphical user interface design program that lets you drag and drop the buttons on there. And it basically just sets a null layout, I think, in the background. If we looked at the source code and positions it for you. Okay, so basically what NetBeans is doing is generating the code that we were kind of doing by hand last time. So another option for you to look at. Now, we're not going to look at that today. We are going to continue on with top-level containers. So, and when I talk about top-level containers, if you do a search on Google, you should be able to find a hierarchy of Java components. So you can take a look, password field format, text pane, checkbox, all kind of belong to JComponent. And then we have some advanced kind of panels that we use to, you see the top level panes that we're going to be kind of talking about today, split pane, tabbed pane, JPanel. And again, if you look at the file that I gave you last time, we read over that. You can see when we get to containers, we can see some top-level containers, dialog frame, general purpose containers, panel, scroll pane, allows you to scroll, split pane, where you split the window into two panes, a tabbed pane, which lets us do tabs, and then toolbars. So let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is go and delete all the lovely code, or most of it, for the containers and adding the widgets to those containers that we did last time. So I'm going to get rid of those. Actually, get rid of that too. And then we're going to declare a new panel. So I'm going to call this JPanel PD1. Okay, so now that we've declared, we're going to actually start adding some widgets to it. And you're going to notice this kind of looks exactly like a container would look like. And there's a reason for that if you look at the hierarchy. So I'm going to add button B to my panel. I'll add, oh, I forgot to set layout, so I'll say p1 dot set layout, new flow layout, p1 dot add, we'll add b2, and then finally we'll add that text field that we had last time, jf1. Okay, now before when we were using containers, you remember we would go this.get content pane to get the content pane of the JFrame. We're kind of going to do the opposite. So instead of getting the content pane of the JFrame, which is actually just getting a panel, we're going to set it to this panel that we have. So I'm going to say this dot set panel p1, and then I'm going to run my program. Oh, and I forgot. It shouldn't be set panel. Sorry, I meant to say set content pane here. Remember last time we said get content pane. This time we're going to say set content pane. So now I can run my program. And when it appears, I'll move it over, and you can see it kind of runs like a container. So big deal. Why wouldn't we just use a container? Just a different way of doing it. Now that we've got a content pane, though, we can start using that content pane with some of our other containers, our top-level containers. So the first one we're going to do is a tab pane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm going to say J tab pane. I'm going to call it tabs. I have to add the import. Oh, missing the D. And I do have the, oh yeah, I imported it with olive swing. So J tabbed pane, tabs, and now what I can do is I can say tabs dot add. I'm going to say tab 1, P1, okay, to add our panel as the first tab. And then in a second, I'm going to go and say create a second panel. I'll call it P2. Right now, it'll give me an error. So now I've got two panels, and I'm going to add them to this J-tabbed pane. Before we can run this program, we're going to set the content pane again, but this time instead of setting it to P1, we're going to set it to tabs. Kill the old program. Run it. And move it over, and you can see I got two tabbed panes. So tab 1 is the one that has the widgets that I've added so far. Tab 2 is just the P2 is the blank panel that I haven't done anything with. Now I leave it to you. If you go back to that file and we take a look at it, so we've done a tabbed pane. Split pane would be similar, where we can decide when you create a split pane, you'd have to decide between horizontal or vertical split. You can take a look at the Java API and figure that out. And actually, this file links to it. If you hover above it, control click, you'll be able to open that in a new window. So you can try split pane. Works kind of the same way as the tabbed pane. Now, advanced level containers. So you've got some advanced level containers that you can play with today as part of your challenge. Now, I'm going to take a step back. Remember, I said at the beginning, last year when we were creating our games, what we would do is we would override the paint method. Okay, so if I wanted to control how my frame paints, I would go g.setColor, color.white, g.fill, rectangle, 0, 0, 1000, 1000. And if you did the frames challenge earlier this semester, gotta add the import for white for the color. Kill that. So if you did the challenge earlier in the semester, there it is. Now, you'll notice as I click on the screen, I minimize it, I bring it back, widget items are kind of popping up. When you override the paint method, you can control exactly how it's painted, except it will mess up how the widgets are painted. Because what's happening in the original paint that we're overriding in the JFrame, it calls all its components. So it looks at everything that you've added to the frame and tells it to paint itself first. So when we override the paint method, we're actually trying to paint the white screen on top of the buttons that get done in the background. So you can see that it wouldn't be ideal for us to override the paint method this year. Now that we know how to use widget items, and we're going to start using widgets in our programs. Luckily, there is a way around that. And the way around that is something called the canvas class. So the canvas class, just like you would imagine, painter paints on a canvas. A canvas allows us to paint something. So whenever we want to paint something, we're going to create a new canvas class. We're going to extend from the canvas class, just like we extended our timers from threads earlier this year and last year. So I'm going to call my class my canvas. And I'm going to inherit, take everything from inside that canvas class, copy it into my class by saying extends canvas. And then the only thing I'm going to override in the canvas class is the paint method. So inside the paint method now I can do g.setColor, color.red, g.fill oval, 0, 0. Let's make it 500, 500. So I'm going to draw a red circle. I'm going to have to make sure I spell graphics correctly. Now, just like when we've done classes all year, I've shown my computer how to create a canvas, my canvas. I haven't actually created yet. So where I create all my other widgets, now I'm just going to create a my canvas widget. Okay, so I've created my canvas widget, and then I'm going to have to add it to the panel. So I'm going to add it to the panel. Okay, so I'm adding it to panel 1, which ends up being my tab 1 in my program. If I pull it up, you'll notice nothing pops up. So it looks exactly like it did before. Because one of the properties I have to set for my canvas is I have to set the size so that I can decide, make it visible. I think it defaults to 0, 0. Set the size, we'll say 300, 300. Run my program again. And there we go. There's my canvas. Not big enough to contain the ball that I decided to draw through the flow layout. So you can see I can start doing drawings. If I wanted to add, go g.fill oval, 0, 0, 200, 200. Set the color again. Colors always have to be either all lowercase or all uppercase, and this is getting annoying having to close this every other time, so I'll show you the trick to get rid of that in a second. Okay, so there we go. So on my canvas I can start drawing a picture, and that's my canvas on tab 1. Now, to get around that annoying closing, what we're going to do is in my constructor for my program, set default close operation. And what we're looking for, there's actually a constant that you can pass in that sets it. So your line of code should be this: set default close operation, exit on close. So what that means is when we close our frame, we exit the main program as well. So it'll do it all in one shot this time. So I have my program, I close it. You notice now I don't have to close this. So set default close operation, exit on close. So the challenge today is to play around and see if you can create a tabbed pane, a split pane. Try and play around with the scroll pane if you feel so inclined, and see if you can get a canvas drawing on your screen and draw a little picture.